Hey guys, OJ Albina here, bringing you guys another episode of our Draft League study where we're going to be talking about new Gen 8 mods, their implications in the Draft League meta, potential ways you can use them, and stuff like that, which obviously really cool. Today we're going to be talking about Duraludon, which is going to be a Steel and Dragon typing, really cool dual step combo, only shared by Dialga prior, so it was pretty much an unused type when it comes to mons that you're going to see multiple of. You're going to see used more and stuff like that. So I think it's cool if they're more so distributing stuff like Steel Dragon, Ghost Dragon, and Dragapult is another example of that with Giratina. We previously had. So I'm glad they did that, but we'll see today if Duraludon really can, hold up to Dialga in its name and all that stuff with its competitive viability. Because obviously that thing is very good. Definitely going to be better than Duraludon, but hopefully Duraludon can hold the candle to it at the very least. But let's just jump right into it. We're going to look at the stats of Duraludon, which are going to be 70 HP, 95 attack, 115 defense, 120 special attack, 50 SPDEF, and then 85 speed. And again, with the Steel Dragon typing, there's a pretty solid typing defensively. It's really nice being able to take neutral damage from those moves that Dragon usually would take that is super effective damage from, being just regular dragons, opposing dragons, fairies, and ice type moves. However, you do gain the weaknesses that do come with being a steel type, whether that be ground or fighting. You stay neutral to fire, which is obviously nice to your dragon resistance. So you do gain 2 weaknesses in that sense, but other than that, it's incredibly solid defensively. Just as natural resistances and stuff that it brings you, obviously super nice. That pairs along really well with that base 115 defense. 70 HP is pretty decent, but 115 defense is very solid. You're gonna actually be tanking those physical moves. Like, you'll eat an Earthquake, you'll eat a close combat for most mons in most scenarios if you're at full, which obviously is super clean. However, when it comes to the bulk, that 50 SPDEF is pretty awful. 70-50 is really awful on the special side, so you're not really going to be taking advantage of you technically resisting Moonblast and stuff like that. You're not really pivoting in on many of those moves from like a stab fairy. That's the only unfortunate thing when it comes to that. But there are ways to potentially patch and remedy that, and we'll talk about it today. Something you do want to point out immediately is going to be that 85 base speed. This thing's a lot faster than I initially thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be incredibly slow, incredibly bulky, and pretty tanky, but you can see it's honestly more geared to be kind of that tank or even like a slept on offensive threat. In some matchups, you can really kind of go crazy with this thing, which is actually pretty cool. And the fact that it got that 85 base speed tier, make it potentially take advantage of the slower meta and throw some big old hits off that base 120 special attack. Again, its dual stab is phenomenal. Draco Meteor plus like Flash Cannon. It's so much. It's actually pretty insane how well that coverage really does, go across. The only thing you're really struggling with is going to be those steel types, which you do get some physical coverage for. Not necessarily some special coverage, but hopefully you can remedy that with the team. You don't really hit those steels very well, but other than that, you'll be able to chip them, you'll at least be able to get some damage off, maybe force them in and get up your rocks, something like that, which, again, we'll talk about in a minute. But you do have that base 95 attack, which is definitely usable. This thing gets access to some pretty cool physical moves like Body Press, which I guess wouldn't even go off the physical attack set, that'd be going off your defense. But then you have like Stomping Tantrum. You obviously have your dual stabs and stuff like that, with access to SD, which, again, we'll talk about in a little bit, but that's obviously something you can take advantage of depending on the matchup, being that this is the draft format, so it's you're able to get away with a lot more than you typically would in other potential tiers and stuff like that. So obviously, super clean. Ability-wise, this thing has light metal and heavy metal. Not really taking advantage of either of those. Other than the heavy metal, it does have access to heavy slam as one of its physical stats. So if you're going with the physical set, you could totally go with a heavy metal heavy slam set. Depending on how bulky, how heavy the rest of your opponent's team you really think it's going to be. And then also has the ability Stalwart, which is a completely useless in singles, very useful in doubles. It basically says no to redirecting moves like Follow Me and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Redirection is definitely a very big thing. This thing's incredibly good against Trick Room and VGC, but we're not here to talk about VGC. Let's just jump right back into draft. But that's going to be the stats and kind of their applications and stuff like that for Duraludon. Pretty well balanced on overall, I'd have to say. Minus the SPDEF. Everything is very, very much so usable and very solid on this thing. So let's jump into some moves that this thing gets. First, we're gonna start talking off with just some stab special moves. This thing has base 120 special attacks, so you're gonna want to take advantage of that. Has access to Flash Cannon and Draco Meteor, which are gonna be probably the two you see the most often. And then the jacked up version of Flash Cannon being Steel Beam, which is a new move. I believe it's like 150 base power, which is insane. That is a nuke. 140 with 95 accuracy. The only downside is you do lose 50% of your max HP. However, in some matchups, that might be fine. If you really need that extra damage, that's obviously. Excuse me, I apologize. That's obviously a really good option to have. And then Dragon Pulse if you don't want to get that -2 drop, which is obviously super, super clean. Then we're going to talk about some coverage moves this thing gets right off the bat, which is going to be Thunderbolt and Dark Pulse. And honestly, this is pretty much the extent of the special coverage. Well, it's pretty solid. I do like Thunderbolt a lot to hit bulky waters because they would potentially pivot in on the steel type. They can actually take advantage of your weak Spadef and hit you with an Ice Beam pretty hard. So I think having the Thunderbolt is a really, really good option. This thing has a pretty decent speed to it. Again, you're going to outspeed most waters, so this serves as a really good revenge killer from some, really annoying mons potentially. So that's obviously super, super dope. Like, it outspeeds mons like Gyarados that's here. Which I know in OU for a minute when Dynamax Gyarados was running all over the place, you would actually see Scarf Duraludon every once in a while with a Thunderbolt to potentially revenge it. So I really do like T-Ball on this thing. Dark Pulse obviously, it's nice. It's not necessarily like 100% needed, but it's nice to have. You might come across a big Aegis Slash or something like that you might need to hit with a Dark Pulse that you don't hit otherwise. So it's definitely not a move we're going to complain about having. I figured I'd throw it on there because it is an option. Other than that, though, special coverage-wise, not too much. We're going to talk about some physical moves this thing gets, because again, it has that base 95, base physical attack, which is 100% usable, especially if you augment that with Swords Dance. You have access to Heavy Slam with the Heavy Metal, which can obviously be really, really cool, really making yourself a little bit heavier and trying to get some more base power on that move. Dragon Claw for your stab, and then Stomping Tantrum. It does not get Earthquake, but it does get Stomping Tantrum to hit Steel types, which is obviously really good, because it's a good way to stop through a physical dragon is obviously sending out your Steel type or something, especially being this thing isn't really stopped by fairies. Again, I apologize, I need to start recording at midnight. But being able to hit those steals is very, very important from a physical perspective. I think if it didn't have any coverage for steals, then physical would be pretty much useless, but being that it does, that's obviously super clean for it. And it also has access to Iron Hand. I forgot to put that in the thing, but it's another option when it comes to physical steel stab. And then some other nice, neat little tech options this thing gets. It gets access to Iron Defense, Body Press, so those two in tandem can actually form a pretty deadly duo. I've played against one of those before. If you haven't checked out my match against Slick for APA Classic Week 3, he actually brought an Iron Defense Body Press Duraludon to not be set up fodder for my Cursed Snorlax, which is a really, really cool bring on his part. Really, really innovative prep. I like that a lot. So I figured I'd mention here. And then it also has access to dual screens and rocks. Did not want to do a whole other slide, just put Stealth Rock. I guess I could have put that on another one, like switch out Steel Beam or something. Or did I put Stealth Rock on the second side? I did. I forgot to talk about it. I also get Stealth Rock and Thunder Wave, which obviously can be of use. But yeah, Reflect plus Light Screen, it's obviously cool. You have to if you need some dual screens in one matchup, that's obviously super clean for you. Being able to facilitate some stuff with some other ones. We'll talk about a specific set in particular for more HO builds and stuff like that, which can obviously be super dope. But yeah, I do kind of want to jump into some set ideas. I did come up with quite a few for this, so I don't want to dilly-dally too long. Kind of want to jump right into them and at least knock them out of the way as fast as possible. First off, we're going to have a choice set. Whether it be Choice Scarf or Specs, I think this thing does definitely take advantage of that with the Light Metal ability. Essentially, on every set that's not using Heavy Slam, I do recommend using Light Metal. You can use Heavy Metal, but I feel like Light Metal is just a little bit better in case you go against those mons. Those fighting type mons especially, they might want to hit you with some low kick coverage. It's just better to have in general. It probably won't end up coming into play, but it's obviously nice to have. But in this set, we just have Flash Cannon, Draco Meteor, Steel Beam, and Thunderbolt. Flash Cannon, Draco Meteor hit incredibly, incredibly hard. Like I said, a great dual stab combo minus those steel types. Oh my gosh, I'm trying my hardest not to yawn the rest of the video, even though it'll probably happen. Dual stabs are great. Steel Beam is an absolute nuke. which is great. And if it's a good last ditch effort, especially like a spec steel beam, I don't care what you are, you're gonna take a chunk from that coming in. Like that's not gonna feel good whatsoever. Neither is a spec or Scarf Draco, but especially a spec steel beam. Oh my gosh. And then we have Thunderbolt just to hit those potential bulky waters that want to pivot in on your steel type stabs. Obviously, being that you are a choice and you can't really take advantage of it in any other way with this set. I figured Thunderbolt was a nice option to have on here. EVs wise, I just have like, a max speed set. Again, I say this in every single video, but I want to preface it every single time just so people know if this is your first time watching. In the Draft League format, you're obviously going to be speed creeping. You're going to be EVing to potentially get this certain KO. You're going to be EVing, giving yourself enough HP to take this hit after rocks, take 2 of these after rocks, etc., etc. However, I'm not building with a matchup right here. I'm just kind of posting sets and saying, like, this is something I can see you, being able to run in the draft format. This is another thing. This is another idea. Stuff like that. Kind of just brainstorming and stuff. So don't take the EVs with anything more than a grain of salt other than this is fast and offensive, this is slow and bulky, etc., etc. Next up, we have an Assault Vest set. We're going to try and augment our terrible, terrible special defense. With an Assault Vest set, we essentially have the same coverage, except I took off Steel Beam. For Dark Pulse, you can also throw in like a Stomping Tantrum, maybe another physical attack that you might have. Something like that. I figured Steel Beam is kind of counterproductive when it comes to running an Assault Vest set, where you want to, be living as long as possible. You don't want to be taking away your own HP when you're meant to be able to pivot and take those special hits and stuff like that. So I think Assault Vest is a great way to augment its awful 50 base for def. It makes it seem like it's a much better than it really honestly is. So AV is definitely going to have its place in the draft format, especially these things great defensive typing. Sometimes you're just going to need to take those special hits that stats wouldn't allow, but the typing plus the ability will definitely let you in here. Next up, we have a Life Orb set. Another pretty offensive set with the Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, Thunderbolt. But I also have Stealth Rock as an option here. Like I said before, Duraludon does get Stealth Rock, and it's going to force a lot of switches. You're going to force in a lot of said steel types. So if you can do so, getting up your rock is obviously really nice. This thing is a pretty sturdy rocker, and with the Life Orb, you're still going to be doing pretty immense damage. So that's obviously really nice. I think Dark Pulse is usually going to be the most expendable move here. But, depending on who you're playing and all that stuff, you could take off Thunderbolt, you could take off Flash Cannon, Draco Meteor, you never know. Again, it totally depends. But I think this thing's a pretty solid rocker. As per evident of our next set, which is going to be a Focus Sash set with Stealth Rock, Thunderwave, Flash Cannon, and Draco Meteor. The idea of this is to guarantee live one hit, maybe Thunderwave something down if you can, get off those rocks, and then throw off maybe a big hit or two once or twice before you go down, depending on what you're valuing more and what you're playing for in said situation. I lied. I totally yawned again, and I held back another yawn a minute ago. I apologize, but yeah, this is basically just an idea of getting up your rocks, maybe getting up Para and getting some yellow magic on something, maybe picking up a KO before you go down. A little bit more of an offensive idea opposed to others. But those are going to be like the most of the main sets I think Duraludon's going to run. 8 times out of 10, you're going to see stuff like that run. You're going to see a Shuka Berry. You're going to see, a Chobble Berry potentially. Stuff like that. Just to potentially eat those, few weaknesses that it has. Be able to eat those hits up, which is obviously super clean. However, I do actually have, I think it's 3 more sets that are definitely a little bit more niche, but definitely sets I think they can do a lot of work depending on the matchup and stuff like that. Definitely catch your opponent off guard if they do match up. Again, I'm not one for heat building. I don't think you bring crazy stuff just to bring crazy stuff, but if it matches up well, totally do it. That's the whole point of playing this format, is to have fun and experiment and try and outwit your opponent with some pretty crazy prep and good play and all that stuff. So first up, we have a Body Press Iron Defense Duraludon with a Heavy Metal, Heavy Slime Body Press, Iron Defense, and Substitute with the leftovers. Obviously, the idea here is to potentially get up an Iron Defense or 2, maybe get behind a Substitute, then throw off big Heavy Slams and Body Presses. The combination of those 2 moves actually do pretty well. I think they have pretty much everything neutrally that I'm thinking off the top of my head. I think it does pretty well. Obviously, Heavy Slam can be swapped out for Iron Head. I totally forgot to put that on the slide, but definitely an option in itself as well. And this is a pretty good set. If, say, you're facing a really annoying steel type that you want to lure in and you want to get rid of, Duraludon is a great way of doing so. Because typically, if you're running just like, a Life Orb set, you wouldn't necessarily be able to dent him too well. but with like a iron defense and a body press up with your pretty solid base defense, you should be good. Especially at plus two, you're gonna blow most steals back, which is obviously super clean. So I really like the set. Again, Slick Panther brought something like this against me in APA Classic, and I thought it was really cool prep, so I had to show it off here. So huge shout out to him. Obviously, that's super dope. But yeah, I really like that set. And again, these sets aren't like crazy heat. It's just more unorthodox on this stuff I'm gonna see. I feel like I'm gonna see as the generation goes on. Especially this guy right here. This is going to be a dual screens. Basically a suicide lead Duraludon. Rocking with the Light Clay, max HP, max speed, Light Skin, Reflect, Stealth Rock, and Steel Beam. The idea here is to get up your screens, grab your rocks, and then go kaboom with Steel Beam. While you may not have much special attack, you're going to be doing 50% recoil, and it's a very strong move, so you're going to be doing some decent damage to whatever. And the idea is this is putting on a hyper offense team that's going to rely pretty much solely on setup and hard offense and stuff like that. Getting up those screens is obviously super dope, and with the Light Clay, we'll be able to get them up for 8 turns, which is not something we can ever complain about at all. And then basically go down, try and set up and win. So this is either good really early in the game to put a lot of offensive pressure on your opponent, or definitely so in the late game if you can find an opportunity in which to set it up and all that good stuff. So I think Duraludon, it's actually pretty solid in the sense, just because of how bulky it is. People tend to stray away from these kind of sets, I think, because it seems like a waste. It seems like you're playing 5v6. But if you really do have a win con that's that good versus your opponent, but it just doesn't ever get a chance to set up, getting up those screens is obviously incredibly valuable for it. So it's a really good trait that Duraludon has right there. And then lastly, we have a Swords Dance set, which I think I talked about earlier. Oh my gosh, did I already talk about Swords Dance? Oh man. I didn't talk about Swords Dance. That's weird, but yeah, very usable physical attack, like I said before. So this set, we have a Swords Dance, Heavy Slam, Stomping Tantrum, Dragon Claw. Leftovers can be Sugar, Chople, and Heavy Slam can be Iron, obviously. You have a very usable physical attack set, like I was saying pretty often before. Your dual stabs are great, and the Stomping Tantrum is just a really solid way to hit those steel types that might potentially give you some grief. So you can boost up, augment that pretty mediocre stat, and kind of go to town from there. You can even go like Life Orb if you're feeling extra powerful and you want to get some big damage off on it. But obviously that's super nice. But yeah, that's gonna mostly be Duraludon right there. Very cool mon. I really want to try it out myself. I'm not gonna lie to you. A mon I really like. With this one in particular, I really like Dugtrio. I'm just a big Dugtrio fan in general. I love Dougie. I think it's an absolute blast to play with, and it forces so much prep on your opponent. And if your opponent doesn't prep for it correctly and they let you snag that steel type, your Duraludon can potentially go crazy on them. Another idea I think with this thing is you definitely want either a secondary steel or a secondary dragon. I lean towards secondary steel. I think this thing functions as a dragon with a secondary steel typing, not the other way around. So getting a secondary steel is obviously really nice. Maybe a more Spadef bulky one would be pretty solid for you. Let me see exactly what is 100% a good idea. Steelix could be pretty cool. I actually really like Steelix. What else is there? Like a Bronzong, an Escavalier, something like that would obviously be super nice. I really like Escavalier, actually. It doesn't really share any weaknesses with your guy right here. But that's obviously really cool. And it still has an offensive presence, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So I think Escav could be cool. Again, Zong, Ferrothorn, any really bulky steel could really go with this thing. I don't think it functions well as that steel type role. I think it's a really nasty dual stab combination, and it's more so going to be used as an offensive rocker, a potential revenge killer, a wall breaker, with like a spec set. So that's obviously super clean with it if you get a bit of a bulkier steel type, just so you could take a little bit of pressure off of our guy here, getting in some momentum. So getting a good volt switch and future momentum is obviously going to be really solid for this, like a Rotom form, something like that. But I really think this thing hasn't been really explored to its fullest extent in draft yet, and I think it's going to be pretty solid as a tier 2 mon. Clicking buttons, getting up rocks, and maybe getting up a screen or two along the way. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy and you are new here, be sure to drop a subscription if you haven't done so already. I would greatly appreciate it, honestly. We've had great growth since Sword and Shield, and I really do appreciate it. I just hope to keep going and keep making better